Friends, so the portion of Vayelech, Moses gives us the last two of the 613 mitzvot. We got 613 commandments. 611 were already given. The last two are in this portion. And what are they? The mitzvah of Hakhel, to gather all the people together every 7 years in Jerusalem to reenact Sinai. And finally, the mitzvah of writing your own Torah. The language of Maimonides, lichtov kol echad sefer Torah liatzmo, that every individual write a Torah scroll for himself. Now think about these two mitzvot. One speaks about the collective, Hakhel, gather everybody. Think about the Jewish community at large. But that's not enough. How does the saying go? Think globally, act locally. Think about Hakhel. Think about all the Jewish people and the future and continuity of our people and our tradition and all that. Then that's very important. But you know how you make it happen? By writing your own Torah. Translation by, as Maimonides words it, take a Torah for yourself. Personalize it. God was talking to you. You know, the rabbi gave a big speech on a Saturday morning, and he was very impassioned and demanding of the people that they step up their practice of Yiddishkeit, etc., etc. He really laid it down hard. The people were moved, they were impressed, so they all lined up to congratulate him. And one by one, they all said the same thing. Rabbi, you really gave it to them. Rabbi, you really told them. Rabbi, you really gave it to them. One by one, the rabbi realized that the whole thing was misunderstood. And he got everyone's attention. He says, ladies and gentlemen, you're making one mistake. I wasn't talking to them. I was talking to you. We tend to think about the community, the Jewish people. We want to make sure there's a future. We have entire think tanks and studies to figure out how we're going to make sure that there's a next generation. Torah gives you the simple answer. You want to have a Hakhel? You got to have your own Torah. You want to have a future community? It starts at home. Think globally, act locally. Write your own Torah. Recognize that God didn't give the Torah to them. He gave it to you. In fact, that Sinai was given in singular. Writing your own Torah represents, in a sense, Moses wrote the Torah and he gave it to that generation. And then it was passed down from father to son, from mother to daughter for 140 generations to you and I. And we receive it from our parents. We receive our own Torah, if you will, in a sense that it's personalized. We own it. We take responsibility for it. And then now we can pass it on to our children. In general, the whole discussion of whether it's about the collective or the individual is a big discussion. Whether it's about Hakhel, the collective, or Torah, which is the individual. You might say in communist societies, the argument is it's all about the collective. The individual doesn't matter so much. Let's make sure the society is doing well. Whereas in capitalist societies, it's more about the individual. Go pursue the American dream. Where does Judaism come down on that subject? Judaism really thinks that it's both. Of course, it's about the collective. We need a community. We need a strong Jewish people. But it's also about the individual. In fact, Judaism would say, you know why the collective is so important? You know why God cares about the Jewish people in Israel and around the world? Because each one is his precious child. Each individual is unique and indispensable and in the image of God. As Hillel said in his famous saying, if I'm not for me, who is for me? But if I'm for myself, what am I? Yes, if I'm for myself, what am I? My strength is that I'm part of the Jewish people. I'm Hashem's child. And we care about the whole collective. But you know why? Because if I'm not for me, translation, because each of us is critically important for the mission and for the goal. And I want to suggest that this is why the Rebbe was so successful and continues to be so successful in the manner that he does the outreach and through his chassidim and through his shluchim all over the world in the Chabads. It's been said that the Rebbe invented non-judgmental outreach. Today, many organizations are doing outreach, and some of them very successfully, and that's fantastic. But there's still a unique touch to the way a Chabad shliach approaches outreach, and to the way the Rebbe taught us about outreach. And that is, the Rebbe never spoke about the fact that we got to ensure a Jewish future. Let's take care of the Jewish people. Let's make sure that there are more religious Jews that are observing. His message was always about the individual. I listened to the Rebbe's talks for 2 decades. And I never heard the Rebbe's, pounding his fist and what's going to be, there won't be a Jewish future, there aren't enough Jews coming to shul. He wasn't looking for the numbers, and he wasn't looking for the collective. He only looked for one number. You know which one? The Jew that he's talking to. He said to us, go outside and find a Yid and say to him or her, you're my brother and my sister. I need you to have to fill in our Shabbos candles or mikvah or kosher and a mezuzah. You know why? Because it's good for you. It's what your soul craves. It's what your connection to Hashem is. And therefore, when a person walks into a Chabad house, they feel that connection. It's about their happiness, their spiritual and therefore emotional and material success and growth. We're not looking to have more members to the club of Jewish observance. We're looking for that one Yid to become fulfilled and reach their potential between them and Hashem. I want to close with this fantastic story that, during the Second World War, there were many children who were placed in an orphanage in a suburb of Paris, taken from their parents to be saved. And the story is told that there's one of the children there who was about 10, 11 years old, and he describes the orphanage. They slept in one giant room, beds all around the room. There were children from ages 2 to 12, orphans all alone in the world. And he says it was so sad because the people in charge didn't really take care of them much, and they gave them a little food. Nobody bothered eating. The little kids were getting sick. He described how kids would cry for their parents when they were going to sleep at night or what have you. And he says that one fine day, the door opens, in walks a middle-aged man, well-dressed, with a little brown bag. And he walks up to one of the beds, pulls out some food, pulls out some tuna sandwiches, gives it to that child, and sits there and waits till the child eats. And then he goes to the next bed and does the same thing. Friends, he went from bed to bed to bed around the entire room. He didn't leave till every single child ate. The kids were looking at each other like, who's this person? Maybe it's Elijah the prophet, maybe the Mashiach, who knows? They didn't know his name. They just called him Monsieur, Mister, like Sir. Monsieur came every single day for a period of 6 weeks until they were sent out. From then they moved on to the UK. Every day. He didn't leave till every child ate. There were some of the young children who were upset, they didn't want to eat. He would sit down, tell them a story, make them laugh, give them a candy until they would eat that sandwich. And then he would leave. He said this person who wrote up the story much later in adulthood, he said, we always wondered, who's that? Monsieur, a no name, some kind of angel. He says, fast forward 25 years. I'm in New York. I'm getting married. I have very little family because most of them were wiped out in the Holocaust. And I say to my bride-to-be, I come from Hasidic background, and in our custom, before you get married, you go get a blessing from a Rebbe, from a holy man. It was at that time that the Lubavitcher Rebbe just became a Rebbe. He was a young Rebbe. And he had heard about him, and he's very special. And he made an appointment to meet the Rebbe. He didn't know how the Rebbe looked, because there weren't a lot of pictures and videos. This is back in the day. He shows up at the appointed time. He takes one step into the Rebbe's office, and he freezes. And he points to the man sitting behind the desk. Monsieur? And the Rebbe nods knowingly with a smile. Ladies and gentlemen, we only found out the story after the Rebbe's passing, when this individual, who's not a Chabad chassid, decided to share the story for the world to know. But that's really what the Rebbe's all about. Just the same that he was Monsieur, that he went from bed to make sure that every child is healthy and eats something. That was his inspiration, to send shluchim all around the world and to go from one Yid to another Yid to a third Yid. It's been said that the Rebbe was the antidote to Hitler, Yamach Shemo, in the sense that he searched out every Jew with hate and hunted them down. And the Rebbe searched out every Jew with love. It wasn't just about the Jewish people. It was about the individual, each and every one, which is why the Rebbe sent his shluchim not only to large communities, but remote and tiny communities. And an inverse to our enemies, the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, who made lists and were organized and calculate how are we going to find every last Jew. The Rebbe was organized to make sure that we reach every Jew in every community. His entire mission He was Monsieur. He was just reaching the individual. He was telling every Jew here, take the Torah. It's God's gift to you. Sinai was said in singular. Take the Torah, make it your own. Write the Torah for yourself. And in that way, we actually then create a Hakhel, a community of Jews, a community of people that's strong and united and blessed by our Father in heaven because of that.